everyone! Welcome to Souped Up Recipes. Today we are making a popular breakfast item, Youtiao. We also call it You Zha Gui in Cantonese. They are long, golden, deep-fried breadsticks, also known as Chinese donut sticks. Believe it or not, I have been craving this breakfast ever since I left China. Over the years, I attempted and modified the recipe many times, and finally, I decided to share it with you. This recipe only involves 6 basic ingredients. Super simple, but tricky at the same time. You have to pay attention to lots of little details. I will share all my techniques in order for you to achieve that light, airy, chewy, and crispy texture. There are many leavening agents you can choose for this recipe. Some people use yeast, which requires bread flour to allow the air bubbles to puff. But then the overall texture will be tougher because bread flour is high in gluten. Some people use baking ammonia, which is good, but it's not an easy ingredient that everybody has access. What we are using today is baking powder and baking soda. These 2 ingredients are pantry essentials, but not that many people know that baking soda and baking powder can lose their potency if they have been sitting around for a while. If you don't remember when you bought them, you probably should give them a check to see if they are still active. For the baking powder, you just simply add half teaspoon of it into a bowl of room temperature water. A quarter cup will do. If it bubbles immediately, your baking powder is good. If it doesn't, you need to buy a new box. To check whether baking soda is still active, you just add half teaspoon of it into 3 tablespoons of vinegar. If the mixture bubbles, your baking soda is good to go. Now that we know our leavening agents are still active, we can get started. 250 grams of all-purpose flour, 6 grams of baking powder, 3 grams of baking soda, 3 grams of salt. Stir to incorporate everything. Next, we are going to use some oil to tenderize the dough, but because we don't want to knead the dough too much to avoid gluten development, so don't add the oil directly into the flour, otherwise there will be a big chunk of dough that is soaked with oil and it won't get evenly distributed because we're not kneading it too much. Instead, you want to add the oil to the water and then give a really good stir. Then pour it into the flour. Use a silicone spatula to mix it first. Then go in with your hand and fold it 3 to 5 times until you don't see any dry flour bits. That's it. Don't knead it too much, otherwise the dough stick will come out tough. Cover it with a plastic wrap. Leave it to rest for 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, apply 1 teaspoon of olive oil all over your hands and the working surface to prevent stickiness. Transfer the dough onto the working surface and start pressing it to shape it into an almost rectangle. Fold the left side to about a third. Flip the right side over just like how you fold a blanket. Continue to press and enlarge the rectangle. If the cutting board is getting sticky, feel free to apply a little more oil. Repeat the folding process again. The reason we are doing this is that we want to make the dough smooth without over-kneading it. Fold it down. Okay, this is the 3rd time folding it. As you can see, the dough becomes much smoother. That is good. Wrap it with a plastic wrap. You want to let the dough sit at room temperature for at least 2 hours, so the gluten can be well rested, the dough will be nice and elastic, then we can stretch it easily. If you plan to cook it in the morning, you can make the dough the day before and stick it in the fridge overnight. When you take it out of the fridge, you need to give it 30 minutes for it to come back to the room temperature before deep frying. Okay, I have made this dough yesterday, so we're gonna magically switch it and continue working on it. The dough is wet and sticky. So we will lightly dust the working surface and your hand with some flour. Transfer the dough onto the working surface. Stretch it into a long rectangle shape. Do it gently and don't put too much pressure. If you feel a lot of resistance and the dough is hard to be elongated, you can let it rest for another 5 minutes on the cutting board and then try again. The size should be about 20 inches by 3 inches. Cover it and let it rest on the cutting board for now. We will start heating the oil. I'm using peanut oil because it has a high smoke point. Use the biggest cookware that you have in your kitchen so the length of your dough stick can be longer. I know that looks like a lot of oil, which is why in China, nobody makes youtiao at home, and it's really cheap to just buy it from the street. But now I live in the USA, and I have been craving on it. I assume most of you don't have street vendors selling youtiao around where you live, so we need that much oil to recreate this classic breakfast. Also, deep frying youtiao needs a really high temperature, around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. If the temperature is too low, there won't be enough heat to activate the leavens. If the temperature is too high, then the surface of the breadstick will be set too fast before it even gets a chance to expand. So you really need a thermometer to be successful on this recipe. I am turning the heat to high. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes for the oil to reach the right temperature, so I'm going to keep working on the dough in the meantime. The measurement I gave is enough to make 6 pieces of youtiao, so you want to divide it into 12 little slabs. Each one is about 1.5 inch wide. Dust more flour on the cutting board. Lift each piece and flour the cut surface to prevent stickiness. This is important. I will explain why in a second. Wet a chopstick to make a water line right through the center of every other piece. Then we will stack 2 pieces together. Try to match the ones that are almost equal size. Use your chopstick to press at the middle. Let's take a look. We want the center to stick together tightly so they don't separate during deep frying. We also want these 4 petals to be free. That is why I floured the cut surface before to prevent them from sticking together. If these petals do stick together, your youtiao would not inflate as much. I don't know the science behind it, but I can show you my examples. The right one, the petals were sticking together, and the left ones were not. They are the same recipe, but you can see a huge difference in size. As for the texture inside, the right one is dense and tough, while the left one is light and airy. Another purpose of combining 2 halves together is that it allows you to flip and rotate the breadstick in the oil. If you only have one slab, it's impossible to flip it over. Now the oil is at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I will switch the heat to medium-low. Take 1 piece of youtiao. Gently stretch the length so it becomes 2 to 2.5 times longer, which perfectly fits my 12-inch wok. Let the middle touch the oil first, then carefully drop the rest in so you don't get oil splatters everywhere. Do not rush to throw in the second piece of youtiao because you need to use a pair of chopsticks to move and rotate the first one as fast as possible before the surface turns into a brown color. Otherwise, it won't inflate as big. Once the youtiao has turned into light golden color, that means the outside is set. It will not get any bigger. You can stop rotating it. Just let it sit in the oil until golden brown. Since you don't need to babysit it, you can stretch the second piece at this moment and put it in the oil. If your cookware is small, it's totally okay to cut the dough in half and make shorter ones. Do the same thing, Rotate it as fast as you can before it turns into light golden color. At the same time, keep an eye on the first one and flip it every 10 seconds to reinforce the crust. Once the first one is done, take it out. Continue to fry the rest. Another tip for you is that since we are using so much oil, it is better to make a lot at one time and freeze the cooked youtiao in a Ziploc bag. Whenever you want to eat them again, just reheat them in the toaster oven or regular oven until just warmed through. In China, everybody considers youtiao as unhealthy because it is deep fried and high in calories, but we love eating it anyway. It's addictive. The outside is crusty and slightly chewy. The inside is hollow and has these honeycomb-shaped bubbles, which makes it so light and fluffy. You can snack on it by itself or dip it with sweetened condensed milk. We also like to use it as a topping for congee or hot pepper soup. I'll link the recipes in the description. My favorite way is to enjoy it with soy milk. I hope you can give this a try soon. If you did, leave me a comment, let me know how it goes. As always, don't forget to check the description where you can find all the links, including the printable recipe, the related videos, the purchase link for special ingredients if you don't know where to find them, or the tools that I have used in this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!